96.3 WHUR and HUR Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. Your questions or comments toll free at 855-288-4876. Now, Insight.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM, Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher.
Hearing Lauren tell me that she's pregnant, I have to admit, it's kind of watching someone live your dream. Your situation is definitely making me think about mine. I'm 30-something. I didn't intend on getting a divorce. I would trade everything that's happening around me that's good for that family.
Are you mad? How do you feel about all this?
I'm not mad. I'm glad for you.
Don't worry about me.
I'm going to figure out a way to internalize it and deal with it.
That's an excerpt from last Sunday's Real Housewives of Atlanta program. Sisters Portia and Lauren Williams attempt to work out Portia's jealousy issues. Now, Lauren is pregnant, and Portia really wants a baby. Her green-eyed monster of jealousy really raised its head over that issue. Now, that's reality TV, but in reality, sibling jealousy is very real, and it can damage family relationships. So how does that happen? Can it be fixed? My guests have some thoughts about that. Dr. Nicole Cutts is a clinical psychologist with Cutts Consulting, and Nate Jolly is a musician and music producer who has butted heads with siblings over jealousy issues. We're talking about this tonight. If you have issues with your siblings about jealousy, or maybe your siblings have issues with you regarding jealousy, give us a call. Lines are open at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. You can also comment on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Harold T. Fisher, or follow us on Twitter at Daily Drum WHUR. Dr. Cutts and Nate, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. How are you?
Great. My pleasure. Great to be here, Harold.
All right, Nate, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Nate, real quick, kind of give me the short story. What's going on with you and your siblings?
Well, I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I currently live in Los Angeles. Went to Howard, graduated from Johns Hopkins with my degree in music, and I'm the youngest of 7, but all of us grew up in music, but only 3 of us actually still do music. As musicians, and producing my sister and working together as, of course, if you look at the Jackson 5 or you look at different family groups, we've had our issues as far as, being able to work together in business.
What do you mean have your issues? What kind of issues are you talking about here?
Well, we've had issues from, everybody trying to figure out what their lane is and being comfortable with who's going to be out front, who's going to be, who's going to be the star, and who's going to be, Randy Jackson or Tito Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can't be Michael.
I see.
Unfortunately.
And what has that done to your relationships with your siblings? Indeed, how has that affected the family dynamic?
Granted, I've been living in LA for 2 years now, so I've been solo, doing my thing on my own. But, at the time I lived in D.C., it drove a wedge because we lived together right in Northwest D.C. And, at one point we had 6 months we were living in the same house. Didn't talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Really?
Yeah, we would just look at each other and keep it moving.
Wow. That sounds awful. Yeah. In the same house and not speaking to your blood?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Well, it's all about, who's right as opposed to who's nice. I'm right 'cause I think it should be done this way. No, I'm right 'cause I think it should be done this way. And, I've been, fortunate enough to, accomplish a lot of, have accomplished certain things in my career that we're able to move forward and being able to forgive and, end up coming back and having a better relationship. But during the time, it was just about, everybody having their own opinion and, everybody kind of wanting to be in control of the situations as far as, us doing shows and how the music should sound and, if we should do this tour, or we should open up for this person, or we too good to open up for this person, whatever. It would always be different little issues.
Well, let me see what Dr. Cutts has to say about this. Give me first a kind of a working definition of sibling jealousy, Dr. Cutts. Is that, kind of different from the, your regular boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or husband and wife jealousy?
Yeah, it's different. And, it's related to sibling rivalry. So, your siblings are your cohorts, and they're the people that you most likely compare yourself to and you see yourself competing with. And that competition and that rivalry can bring on jealousy. So like we saw in The Real Housewives, even though Portia is doing really well in her own right, she doesn't have a baby and Lauren's pregnant. And so she's comparing herself to Lauren and coveting what she has, and that's what happens a lot of times with siblings and age mates is you look at the people who are closest to you and say, well, look how they're doing and look at what I'm not doing. And that creates that special kind of jealousy.
One of the things in the first clip that we heard in that Lauren and Portia scenario, there was an argument that really started about the job. But we found out later, as Lauren suggested, that this wasn't about the job. This is about you and not having a child and not having a successful relationship. And, of course, Portia denied it. Right. But eventually she kind of came around and said, yes, that's really what it was about. Talk to me about that. Is that being defensive, that obfuscating, so to speak? Yeah,
well, sometimes the person who's jealous doesn't even know they're jealous. So they for Portia, she might have thought, well, Lauren needs to be showing up for work. Why is she not showing up for work? Not even realizing that maybe part of where that was coming from was that jealousy, right? And nobody wants to see themselves as jealous, Nobody wants to be a hater. So you realize you might be, and so you deny, oh, no, it's not because of that. It's, it's this. So you try to deny it. But it happens. It comes up. And I think that you need to face it. And if that's what's going on, that's with you. You need to work that out because it will damage relationships, as we've seen. And like our guest is talking about, it can get in the way.
202-319-7810. 202-319-7810. Talking about sibling jealousy. It's sibling rivalry on steroids. Do you have any feelings of jealousy towards any of your siblings? Perhaps they have some feelings of jealousy towards you. Let's go to the phone lines. Reggie, calling from Columbia. What's on your mind, Reggie?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I've talked about this. I'm 53 years old, but, the short of it is that my situation's a little complicated in that, there's a couple fathers in my household. My mother's a single parent, and my dad was a genius, actually. He had a couple of patents that I watched him growing up finance his house 3 times to get out there. My sister was always the favorite. She was slated to be the golden child in the family. I did all the legwork and ran around getting patents, going to fabricators, doing all these things. Not to get into what the patent was about, but, I was a musician as well. So coming up, I watched all the opportunities, little small things that might have propelled my career or might have propelled my as far as my self-esteem. I never got that, hey, son, I'm proud of you, and, those type of things. It was always about, my sister. My sister ended up, going to college, and I went in the Marine Corps, but coming out of Duke Ellington, for instance, I needed a trumpet. I had a...
well, let me stop you, Reggie, because like you said, this is a complex thing. Here's my question for you. Obviously, this has been going on for decades. Where are you?
I have sisters. I haven't even been in their house.
Wow.
Sisters, I have never been in their home.
So where are you now with
Well, I get angry, and the doctor said most people don't even know they're jealous. And I think I identified with that because I look at my sister, and she lives in a great big home, and I do okay. I do okay. I'm a sales manager. I'm in the car business, and I work very hard to get where I'm at. But I miss opportunities based on not having that somebody support me, or coming up as a teenager and as a child.
Well, let me see if Dr. Cutts can at least offer you some suggestions, because there's a lot of there are a lot of layers for Reggie.
It is. That's why I can't even touch on, really.
Well, Dr. Cutts, real quick, please.
Well, Reggie, thanks for calling in and for what you shared, and that is tough. There are a lot of layers going on. I mean, one is jealousy, but, also feeling like you didn't get that parental support, for your dreams and your visions can be tough. And sometimes that's something we have to accept and we have to grieve over. And then at the end of the day, we have to look at our own lives, and say, I've made certain choices that have led me down a certain path. If you're happy with what you're doing, you're a lot less likely to compare yourself and feel jealous about somebody else, and that's where we need to put the focus and the energy. And I don't mean put it on ourselves in a way of blaming ourselves, not look at ourselves and say, well, you didn't do this, but to say, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And if you are happy, then don't compare yourself to other people. If you're not, what can you do to change that?
Reggie, hold on, because I have another question that I want to ask Dr. Cutts in reference to your situation, and I think that may even provide even more clarity. So if you can hang on, I would appreciate it. If you're on the phone, that also includes Eugene, please stay with us. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810, talking about sibling jealousy. We are taking calls even after 7:30, so definitely get in on this conversation. The Daily Drum, of course, will continue on Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. Jeff Brown is next with the original Quiet Storm on 96.3 WHUR. More of this conversation in just a few seconds.
The Howard University Radio Network is WHUR 96.3 FM, WHUR World 96.3 HD2, student-run WHBC HD3, glasshouseradio.com, SiriusXM Channel 142, HBCU, and SiriusXM Channel 141, HUR Voices, Washington.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We're talking about sibling jealousy and the damage that it can do to family relationships. My guests are Dr. Nicole Cutts. She's a clinical psychologist with Cutts Consulting. And Nate Jolly. He is a musician and music producer who has butted heads with siblings over jealousy issues. Lines are open. We're going to take as many calls as we can tonight, so give us a call at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Before I let Reggie go, I want to make sure that we talk about this, because I think this has something to do with Reggie's situation. It has something to do with Nate's situation, and all of these situations, Dr. Cutts. I would imagine if you didn't deep down have that innate sense of wanting to bond and love and connect with the sibling that you are jealous of, if you didn't have that, none of this would matter. If you didn't care about them, then the jealousy, is that, am I offbeat here, or does that play a part?
I don't think you're offbeat. I think that the love and the wanting to bond with your sibling plays a part. And I think the jealousy and how you feel about yourself is the wedge, like they talked about on Real Housewives. That's the wedge between Portia and Lauren. It drives the wedge so that bond can't take place. So I think that adds to a feeling of sadness and frustration, because we do want to bond typically with our siblings.
Mm-hmm. And in the case of Nate, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, this situation really started later. Is that correct? Did that start once you started becoming a successful musician and producer, or was this something that started really, really early in life?
It started later on. As you start to kind of come into your own. Our parents were really good about separating all of us and having us all in our in our lane. But it definitely came on later on in life.
I see. Reggie, hang in there. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you being honest with us about how you're feeling, and I hope that you and your family can find some peace as you move through this process. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Let's go to Eugene, calling from Maryland. Eugene, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hi, I wanted to talk on the subject, too. I have two sisters. I'm the youngest. I'm 47 now. They're 15, 52. And I can tell you that I cannot relate to a sibling rivalry at all. maybe it comes down to how you're raised and how your family unit is in the household. So it was never an issue. I mean, as kids, I'm the baby, I'm the boy, so I was a brat. So, but there was no sibling rivalry. I was just a brat, and my sisters were always good. And yeah, we did kid stuff, but as adults, you know, once I got into high school and college, and your character has been established, and goals are set, and college is at the forefront for everyone, and they're doing well. The sibling rivalry never even came close to entering the picture. As a matter of fact, it was more of a overprotectiveness. You know, you want to protect your sisters. You know, I didn't want to, set them up with any guys that were bad. I mean, even the friends that I had, I'm like, no, you're not doing that for my sisters. And likewise, and maybe it's because the umbrella, the love hovering over the household by my mom didn't allow that kind of thing. Not that we had it in us anyway. Maybe it's a combination of the fact that your own character and personality may be something that encompasses that trait, and also maybe it's enhanced or promoted by a parent. Maybe a parent plays one against the other, you know, and if you have a parent that does that, maybe that can exacerbate that kind of situation. But there was never that kind of atmosphere in our household, and as adults, I mean, we're the exact opposite. We're very protective of each other, you know, and try to encourage. So I can't relate to the sibling rivalry from a personal sense.
Well, let me see what Dr. Cutts has to say about that, because, see, there we go. That goes back to, I think, the point that I was making earlier. Obviously, there was a lot of love, a lot of intense bonding, camaraderie with Eugene and his siblings, which I guess was a barrier to jealousy.
Yeah, you know, what Eugene is saying is so true, and parents do play a large part. They have a responsibility in terms of teaching their children how to feel about and treat each other. And it sounds like his parents did a good job of not singling out one kid as a scapegoat or one kid as the golden child, because that can definitely contribute to that rivalry, because then you set up this competition where they're competing for the attention and the love, and they feel like they're always shorted, right? So it's true. You know, parents do play a role. Now, they don't control that completely. The children have their own temperament and personalities and experiences as well, but that is one way to not have that happen, is for the parents to make sure that they raise their children to love and support one another rather than to compete with each other.
And I did want to add one more thing. When you have that from a young age, as you get older and you have different issues, let's say I have an issue financially, or my sister has an issue emotionally, or my other sister has an issue with the relationship. The good thing about not having that kind of sibling rivalry is that everybody needs a certain amount of support at different times. It can't always be balanced and equal. And when you have a certain love and understanding at a maturity level, it's not a competition. So if somebody needs more attention today or this month or this week, we all rally around that person. If my sister needs some support because she's going through an ordeal, we all rally around her. If I need some support extra because I'm going through something, we all rally around. We don't compete and say, "Oh man, he's going to go to
right." Yeah, that's great.
Because it's not always balanced. You know, and the thing about life is, you go to, I mean, we need different levels of support at different times.
Well, Eugene, I've got to let you go. I appreciate your positivity about it. And hopefully a lot of our listeners who are having some issues can learn something from this. Nate, I want to ask you, have you ever tried to fix the conflict that you've been having with your siblings as this relates to this professional jealousy, I guess you could say?
Yes. You know, as my career evolved and my siblings' career evolved, and you know, we all moved to different cities. One lives in Atlanta, one lives in New York, and I live in LA. As we've been able to accomplish things on our own, you know, we were able to kind of get a little more security in ourselves. So, you know, we were able to, I guess, forgive each other. We just realized, you know, it was just better for us to be, you know, just because we're siblings don't mean that we do good business together. You know, it's actually very hard to find people that you do good business with. So, you know, coming to the conclusion that we love each other and we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner and we're going to have Christmas together, but we're not necessarily going to do business together, everything kind of started to, those, you know, bad feelings started to subside.
But now there's the thing. He said they subsided, but did you talk it out or did you just kind of let it go?
Let it go, and then, you know, you have your talk where you forgive each other, and, you know.
So you actually talked it out.
In our case, our uncle was more like a father figure to us. And he passed away about a year and a half ago.
Mm.
And, after, he passed away, and, his biggest goal was to see us all work together. And, although we knew that wasn't going to happen, just, going through that, kind of brought us a little closer.
I see. Let me go back to the phone lines, 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Tanya calling from Maryland. Tanya, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hi, yeah. I have an older sister, and us coming up, she's 5 years older than I am. And she would always, as we were coming up, she was kind of pretty much abusive towards me. And
abusive how? Physically, emotionally, what?
Emotional, sometimes physical. And I will always try to figure out why was she like this, towards me. I'm young, I could never understand it. She would always say things like, my mother treated me better than her and all this. And my mother never treated me better. My mother treated us the same. Mm-hmm. But it's just this animosity that she just had in her towards me. And it kind of bothered me, so I couldn't understand it. My girlfriend was telling me, she told me one time when I was a teenager, she said, this is jealousy. I'm like, but why?
Did you ever ask? Did you ask her?
No, well, actually, as we gotten older, and I was having problems with, my mom and the family, so I was like, my sister, she would get mad and stay mad at us forever for whatever reason. We don't know why she's mad at us, and go off, take my nephew away, don't let him see us and everything. Even to this day, it's to that point, but it has got to the point where I speak what's on my mind to her now. I don't keep quiet like I was taught to towards her.
Okay.
Try to keep the peace in the family. That's just what my mom was always to keep the peace in the family. But I'm to the point right now, enough is enough. And, yeah, I have sat down, and I really do. It's like when I talk to her now, it's like I'm angry.
What do you suggest that she do to address this? Because, again, another multi-layered situation. There's the history, there's the anger now, and there's the relationship or lack thereof.
Well, we don't control what comes from the other side with the person. So the important thing is what we control. We can control our attitude. And Tanya, if you're sitting down, did you say you're angry when you sit down with her, or that she's angry?
Yeah, I'm angry at how she's acting. Like, for instance,
okay, so
for Christmas, she got mad at me because of, for whatever reason, and it was so stupid. And she just stopped talking to me. And then her son wanted to have dinner over to his house. So when she found out I was coming, she didn't come.
Oh, right. So, it's understandable that you would feel some anger toward her. The important thing, though, for you, since you're the one we're talking to on the phone, is to not hold on to that, that you have to forgive her, really forgive her, because it sounds as if she's not a very happy person, and the anger is only going to affect you negatively.
But how do you forgive someone if you don't know where this vitriol is coming from?
Well, I think she said that her sister believed that her mother treated her better than her. And another question, though, Tanya, are your life circumstances different, whereas your sister's comparing herself to you and feeling at a loss?
I'm more outgoing than she is.
Okay. So it's possible that, she's jealous of your personality as well. But what I'm saying in terms of you not holding on to the anger is that you can't control this person. So if you have checked your conscience and you haven't done anything to harm them, and if you say to her, I love you, I would like us to get along, if, is there something maybe I'm not aware of? But if she wants to hold on to that anger, unfortunately, and it's sad, but there's nothing that you can do about it. And if you hold on to anger, it's only going to be eating you up inside.
Okay. Tanya, thank you so much for your phone call, and good luck to you as you try to deal with this issue with your sister. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Omar calling from Laurel. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, I have four four sisters, and I'm the only boy, and I'm in the middle. I'm 30 years old, and this has been going on for about maybe 10 years. I've done everything that was asked for me to do. To go to school, finish school, go to college. I graduated with my master's in psychology.
Great.
And I do what I need to do, and I can do what I need to do to help my siblings out. But when I help them out with certain things that they need help with, I'm not looking for it to be paid back, but it seemed like that, you know, that's not enough. And I may have asked my parents for, like, my dad or my mom, say, hey, can I get a small loan because I want to do a business opportunity, and they give it to me. But when my siblings ask for it, especially the younger ones, it's like, well, no, because you don't have nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. And then it's like when I enter the room where I come over, everybody is frowning at me or giving me type of looks because you always give Omar this, you always do this for Omar, but you don't do nothing for Omar. And at that times, we can all be in a room and no one doesn't even acknowledge me or say hi to me. I have to be the one to open my mouth up to say hi. And it's just like we all had the same opportunity, and it's not my fault if you did not choose to, you know, finish school or better yourself. Or
well, Omar, hold your point. I need to take a break, but and I want Dr. Cutts to kind of address this on the other side of the break. But what it sounds like is that you did what you were supposed to do, and you are reaping the rewards of that. You may have some siblings that may not have risen to the expectations of your parents, and so as a result, they are being treated differently. Am I on point there, Dr. Cutts?
Sounds like it to
me, there we
yeah.
go. Well, I want you to jump in and tell me what you think about that on the other side of this break. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. We're talking about sibling jealousy. We'll be back in just a moment.
From the Press Box, the Press Row is celebrating 10 years on the air. I'm your host, Donald Wood.
Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about sibling jealousy and the damage that it can do to family relationships. Okay, Omar explained his situation before the break. He's getting praise from his parents. Siblings, not so much. Siblings not happy with the praise that he's getting. So, Dr. Cutts, what do you think?
It sounds like a case of hateration. And there's unfortunately, that's the official psychological term.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there's really nothing that Omar can do aside from extend himself to his siblings. Like I mentioned to Tanya, let them know that he loves them, he's there for them. And if he feels hurt by their lack of support or lack of connection, he's free to say that. You know, I would like us to have a close relationship. I want to support you. I hope that you can support me. Is there something in the way? Maybe they will cop to it. Maybe they'll say, okay, I feel jealous. A lot of people aren't going to say that. They're going to, like we talked about before, they're going to be in denial. They're going to make up reasons because they don't want to look at their own failings. So if you're doing better, then they want to blame you in some way rather than to look at themselves and take responsibility.
Okay. Well, Omar, thank you so much for your phone call and good luck to you. Nate, what is it that you've learned from this situation with your siblings? Because certainly yours is unique to the extent that it involved professional achievements, the potential for professional success and money, fame, notoriety, all of those kinds of things. So how do you square that when you're doing your own thing and everybody's trying to get a piece of the same pie? I mean, it's one thing if you're competing against John Legend, but when you're competing against, you know, John Jolly, your brother in the same family, that's you know.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my situation was a little different because, you know, my grandmom, who's still alive, I love, has always adamantly let everybody know from the day I was born that I was her favorite grandchild. She has over 50 grandchildren. And so there's some way that we connected. So in a lot of aspects, I put my siblings, you know, this next phase of my life has been putting me first. I got my sister on tour with Lady Gaga. You know, she did one of the biggest tours in the world while I was still in college, eating oodles and noodles and ramen soup. She's touring the world, you know, seeing everything. And it was through one of my relationships from touring that I was able to get her on tour, as well as, you know, she did America's Got Talent. So I actually really never focused on myself. And looking back in retrospect, that could have caused certain resentment within myself because I was kind of getting blamed for focusing on, honestly, like from a manager's standpoint, like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. And, when I stepped out and did my own thing, I was able to start, working on big movies and working with bigger artists. And it probably had less to do with them and more to do with myself because I was probably a little bit happier with myself as opposed to, it's like somebody that works at a job and the manager is screaming at them, but it's not a job they really want to be at in the first place. It just makes the whole situation worse. So from my standpoint, when I thought it had a lot to do with them, when I realized it had to do with the security of me feeling comfortable with what I was doing, my relationship towards them, things that may have affected me in the past, it didn't affect me, and it, kind of made the relationship a lot better. If that makes sense,
Yeah, great.
It makes sense to me. Dr. Cutts, my consternation with all of this is that parents, in some cases, really need to be careful about how they express love and affection when they have more than one child.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, first of all, we say, oh, you're supposed to love all your children equally, blah, blah, blah. That's true that you should love them all equally, but sometimes they also need to be parented differently. But what you definitely want to stay away from is just having this favorite golden child or the scapegoat child, which we see, in a lot of families. So, to be fair with the children, to let them know what your expectations are of them and what the rewards are for those expectations, what the punishments are, and to met those out equally. We'll go a long way in terms of not creating this inequality among the sibling set to contribute to that jealousy. Now, in the case of like our friend Omar, whose parents are treating them differently now based on what they've done, I think the parents need to articulate that. Omar, the reason why we're loaning Omar money to start a business is because he has a track record.
And we know that we're going to get it back.
Right.
But his sisters he said, well, we're not going to loan you money because we don't know if you're going to get it back.
Exactly.
Because you may not have a job or you may not have been as responsible.
Right. So I think you need to treat them fairly and make it very clear that these are the expectations. This is why we do what we do. These are the rewards if you do what you're supposed to do. And this is what doesn't happen if you don't do that. I think
but
that
let me ask you, if in certain relationships with certain people, like I said, like the Jackson 5, there was a clear standout that Michael Jackson was a star. So how do you handle it if you're in relationships where some siblings may have more talent than the other?
Well, being a star, having more talent doesn't mean that they love you more. So they shouldn't love him more to the detriment of the other kids. But it does mean that if he has the better voice, well, then he's going to get this solo, and it's based on that. But outside of the rewards that you get that are directly related to your talents or what you do, then it shouldn't be like, okay, Michael, you get the solo, and, poor Tito, we don't really care how you're feeling. You know what I mean? At least give Tito some love while Michael is out there.
Tito needs love, too.
Right, Tito needs love.
But also, I think that that's the difficulty when you have siblings, and whether it's the Jackson 5 or anyone else, the Braxtons, for example, where one may have more talent, one may be more attractive or what have you, but if they all want the same thing, but I guess, you've got to try to, can you balance common sense with how you're feeling?
Yes.
I know I can't sing, and I know Tony Braxton, she's the bomb and she can sing, but I still want what she wants. I want the diamond microphone.
Right. Well, if you can afford the diamond microphone, go ahead and get it.
But I want to be able to get it the same way, but I don't have that talent. For some people, I would imagine you just can't get that through their heads.
And then that's when you have to let it go. But what were you going to say, Nate?
No, I was going to say that's I find that a lot, especially in my industry. It's always But in a lot of areas, too, like living in L.A., a lot of kids that are on TV, it can be difficult for the other kids because the parents have to show favoritism to their child that's going on movie sets and going to TV tapings and going to recording studios. They kind of have to pay a little bit more attention to them than the kid that's, staying at home.
Do they have to, though?
Well,
like, what if you're staying at home working on your butterfly collection? Shouldn't they give you a little love for that as well?
They should give you a little love, but I don't think it's a matter of love. I've noticed, having a 7-year-old, a lot of times they associate love with time. How much time you spend with them. Let's say you have 2 kids. That one is on a movie set 10 hours a day with movie producers and, all types of people that are much older. You are obviously, as a parent, are going to feel more obligated to go on a movie set for 10 hours with your kid that's around people that are in the music industry that you want to be protective of, as opposed to your kid that's, at the house.
Right, but you have to be careful when you do that. You have to find a way to balance that out because you don't want the child who doesn't need the 10 hours of supervision to feel less love. So I think that if that is the case, then you need to make special effort to do something with them when you can to balance that out.
Because I would imagine that whether it's the music industry or if you have a child that has certain athletic ability, and so the entire family is sitting there watching Johnny run up and down the football field scoring touchdowns, and then you've got Susie who is getting all A's, but getting all A's is that quiet intellectual victory that sometimes parents may miss, and it's like, well, yeah, you're supposed to get all A's, so but scoring touchdowns, that's another thing, or setting world records, in swimming laps in the swimming pool. So it would appear to me that, again, parents need to they need to show a great deal of maturity, and as we
you
know,
have to. It affects you as you get older. Like, especially a lot of stars I deal with that come from families. It's usually ones that are probably a little bit younger that usually end up having the issues later on in life, and sometimes you might even know why they have insecurities. But it's because they didn't get, they probably felt like they didn't get the level of attention when they were younger.
Right.
But Dr. Cutts, I really only have about a minute or so left. Some final thoughts about what siblings can do if they realize that there is a problem, and perhaps there are some siblings that don't. How can they come together? Do they sit down? Do they have a pillow fight? What do you recommend?
Well, if you're the sibling who has the jealousy, you've got to look inside first, and you need to let go of that. And you need to look at yourself and whatever it is you need to do. If you're the sibling that's getting the jealousy toward you, I think that you should name it and say to your sibling, what's going on? I feel like there's this block between us. I love you. I want to support you. I want the same from you. Is there something that's in the way? And that's all you can do is try. And if that sibling wants to come together, then you can talk it out and reconnect. If that sibling doesn't, then you might have to do some work to let it go and just forgive them and keep it moving.
Let it go. Looks like that may be the buzz phrase for this issue. Well, I want to thank both of you, Dr. Nicole Cutts and Nate Jolly. Nate, good luck to you. You might want to, come back home and bring us bring a star or two with you.
Absolutely, we will be coming back. Definitely go to our website, ReadySetImpact.com, and also our Instagram, ReadySetImpact.com, and mine at Nate Impact to see what I'm up to and everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nate. I really appreciate it. And hug your siblings because they're the only ones you have.
I will.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Nate Jolly, Dr. Nicole Cutts, thank you both for sharing and helping. That is the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141 for this Friday, January 15th, 2016. For News Director Renee Nash, reporters Taylor Thomas, Troy Johnson, Millette Green, Bramante Bryant, producer Candace Atkins, and engineer Bobby Adams, I'm Harold Fisher. You can reach me at hfisher@WHUR.com, on Facebook at Harold T. Fisher, or Twitter at Daily Drum WHUR. Now, stay tuned for The Connection with Lorna Newton. Good night and have a wonderful weekend. Hug your siblings. Good night.
The Howard University